This video is going to look at the vertebrae, and we're going to look at kind of all of them really briefly, and then we're going to look at the lumbar vertebrae. So when we look here at all the vertebrae, this whole front row right here that we're seeing right here, these are all cervical vertebrae. The key feature that's going to kind of help you remember which ones are cervical is the cervical vertebrae all have 3 holes when you look at them. So you're going to see the 2 little holes on the side, those are the transverse foramen, and the 1 large hole, which is the vertebral foramen. So even on this one, at first you're like, oh, there's only 1 hole. If you kind of turn this one over right here, you can see the 3 holes there. You can see the 2 to the side here, and here, those transverse foramen and the vertebral foramen, and then we bend these up here, you can see the 3 holes. So that's going to be a special feature you see on those cervical vertebrae. And like I said, you see a lot of variety in the cervical vertebrae. We're going to focus on those in a different video. When we look at those compared to, we're going to look at these two. So if you don't see 3 holes, so you'll notice when you look at these, you only see 2 holes. To differentiate the lumbar from the thoracic, you're going to look at the size and kind of the shape of the vertebrae. So the really, really big one here, the body right here is really large. That's going to be the lumbar vertebrae. It kind of looks like a moose if you look at it. And then here, which is a little bit smaller, but still only 1 hole there, 1 foramen. This is going to be our thoracic vertebrae. And I think when you look at it, it kind of looks like a giraffe. So it's kind of the in-between size, only 1 foramen, but it looks giraffe-like. So that's going to be our thoracic. So now we're going to look at our lumbar. We're going to see when we start looking at the vertebrae that they, a lot of these features you find on one, you're going to find on all of the others. So if we look at the lumbar vertebrae here, you're going to see this big flat structure right here, kind of oval in shape. That is going to be the body of the vertebrae. Then in here, right here, this hole, that's the vertebral foramen. And then this piece kind of sticking out right here, that is the spinous process right here. The 2 parts that stick out laterally, that's going to be the transverse process here. So those kind of point on the lateral sides. And then when we kind of look at it or angle it like this, we're going to see these parts right here. They kind of stick up and they have a flat part. That's going to be the superior articular process and facet. And then if we kind of turn this around to kind of see down and back here, this flattened area that kind of sticks out here, and right here, that's the inferior articular process and facet here. If we go back where we can see that spinous process, which is on the posterior side, because that's going to be those bumps you kind of feel on, like if you feel your back, you feel those bumps, that's going to be that spinous process. And we can see this flat part right here. This flat part right here is called the lamina, and we see that on both sides right here. So we have spinous process, lamina, the inferior articular process and facet, transverse process here, then the superior articular process and facet here. We kind of turn over here, and we see that body again. This little piece right here, that is called the pedicle. So we have all those features on that lumbar vertebrae. Like I said, when we move and look at the thoracic and the cervical, we're going to see a lot of these features repeated from one vertebrae to the next.